So there have been some stories come out from a lady who has written a book called Premka, White Bird in a Golden Cage, My Life with Yogi Bhajan. And I haven't read the book yet, but I'm interested to, and I'm doing this video before I read it. So I found out about this book, if you're interested, from a channel called Sky Life. She did 40 days of Kundalini Yoga and then did a follow-up video. So I just wanted to go over a few things because the timing of this is interesting, because I was going to do a video and a blog post about why I don't mention Yogi Bhajan much in class. But it kept going back to the back of my mind, I kept forgetting about it, and then it's been brought up again, so I thought, okay, I'll do it now. So my Kundalini Yoga journey started with me simply just reading a Kundalini book. It was not related to Yogi Bhajan at all. It was Kundalini Yoga from an ancient something or other with complicated names in it, and I read what I could at the time, and it really empowered me. So then I went on to watch YouTube videos. She's still a YouTuber, I'll link her, and blogs, not 3HO related. So I very much got into it through the practice of it without any influence apart from what was being done, such as the breath work and the mantras. And it did drastically change my life. I chose meditation over alcohol, over hangovers in particular. I started wearing my hair up, and I didn't have makeup on for outwardly pleasing purposes. And I did a lot of 40 days, I changed a lot of habits, and I left a long-term relationship that wasn't serving me, and I don't know if I'd have courage to do that without the practice of yoga in my life. So it is a really shocking thing to hear about. So that's me coming from the yogic side, that my roots were in the yoga. And even after I started going to classes, so I did yoga at home, then I went to a festival, and then I went to classes. And I'd say even at the classes I went to, my local classes, there was no pictures of Yogi Bhajan anywhere. And that really influenced me, because I noticed the different vibe, the places that had the picture up and that didn't. And I really liked how plain it was. I liked the candles there. I liked her white sheepskin. I liked all those kinds of things. Really resembled peace for me. And as a teacher, I brought that into my own practice. I just simply have a small space to teach. If I'm at my own home, I'd have some flowers out, some incense possibly, and my notes and my sheepskin, and then I teach. So I think naturally I've not included so much of his presence in my practice and through teaching. And that's just happened as it's happened. I've done what's felt right for me. Though if you went to festivals, you'd see his picture up, often in pop art style. And I think there's some interesting things I'm thinking about now from training, because there's some things that just didn't sit right with me, that just stood out a bit oddly. So one would be, I suppose it's common for someone who creates such a large group and following. So one thing we were taught early on is Kundalini Yoga was taught to a select few, and then let's say it was 5 people, and then we didn't know what happened to the other 4, if they carried on teaching or if something happened to them, because Yogi Bhajan wasn't supposed to teach it outside of a circle. And Yogi Bhajan was the one that had made it huge in the Western world. And he did so with good intentions, we were told, because people were turning to drugs and alcohol and sex and all kinds of things, when really they could find tools within to find happiness. So you can tell from, I think, trainings, and if you were at a Kundalini style event, that people can put him up on a pedestal, and you'll just hear Yogi Bhajan this, Yogi Bhajan said that, Yogi Bhajan, Yogi Bhajan. And that stood out to me as a bit annoying. Because although, yes, he created it, it really reminded me of taking yourself away from yourself and focusing so much on another person, when really it should be the teachings. And you find that, I can think of another organisation which does that. They say the organiser's name a lot, when it's not about that person, it's about what they bring, what someone brings to the table, and how their people use it. So I kind of made a promise to myself I wasn't going to be one of those people. And I do feel that if you were back in those times, then you'd probably really idolise him and you'd do anything for him, because that's how people would talk about him, like a guru. But he wasn't. He was a yoga master. So an interesting tale we were told in training was how one of the teachers I was with said that she met Yogi Bhajan, and in order for him to see her, because he was quite ill, was he would ask for more money and a bit more money and a bit more money. And this was just kind of said in a way of showing his power, and showing that he liked wealth and presence. But it did strike me as a bit odd, because if you were to have fans and things, would you really want them to give you more money as you were laying there ill? And the stories I've heard of, like the Dalai Lama, for example, is that journalists or writers he'll say to them, ask me one question, and then they ask the one question. And he wouldn't ask for anything in particular from them. He's just given those guidelines. Ask me one question and I'll answer it. And that sits right to do that. And I have been to White Tantrics before and Yogi Bhajan's birthday events, though I wouldn't say those are in particular for that person. It was for meditation. I really did feel the clearing of doing a whole day of meditation with someone else, and doing 2.5 hours of chanting the Mool Mantra. I wanted to experience that in a group of people. I think throughout my journey I'm really thankful I resonated with books from different authors. Gabani, hugely. I really liked Gabani, I liked Kirtan. I decided and chose myself to go into the path of Sikhi. So I'm a yoga teacher and a Sikh. And I think what's come out, and although there have been stories like this before, but this is a book, and some big names have come out and said that they too have heard childhood stories now of people around them in the community, and it really does make you think. Makes you think about his quotes and video footage, because that's the other thing. When I've been deepening my knowledge, trying to learn more, for example in the Library of Teachings, a lot of it is just waffle talk. It's just talking about this person that's left the community, this person that's there, this person's having cake. It gives me mixed feelings, and it confirms some things, but then it does remind me that people with power have have a certain way about them. But it's interesting because I had a conversation a few weeks ago. I also learn a martial arts, and he was saying that he was at a festival one time in probably America, and Yogi Bhajan was there, and the head of his staff said, you can't teach Gatka here anymore because he doesn't want choices for these people, he wants control. And that, it did stick out for me a little bit, because I got what he meant, but at the same time the bigger picture of things is that people can have choices. They can choose to do a physical martial arts, they can choose to do physical yoga, and that people do have choice. And how much power and control one person can have. So I think it's important for yoga teachers to come out and say their thoughts. I'm interested for anyone that wants to have a discussion, even if it's through email, because I continue to teach yoga. At the root and at the base of yoga, I think it is so healing and empowering. And I know through my own experience, I'm talking from experience. So yeah, I may follow this up with a part 2 after I've read the book. Is that now?